Welcome back to OpenInfra Live, the Open Infrastructure Foundation's weekly web series where we share production case studies, open source demos, industry conversations, and the latest updates from the global open source community. We're live here every Thursday at 1400 UTC. We're streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I'm Jimmy MacArthur with the Open Infrastructure Foundation, and I will be your host for today's episode. You can submit questions and comments throughout the show, regardless of the platform. We will get to as many as we can as time allows. Today, we're going to be talking about open source training with folks from all over the world and with wildly different training strategies. It's going to be a cool show. So we'll start with introductions. '99 Cloud.
Hi. Hi, Jimmy.
How are you?
Hi. Is my slide work?
No. Well, we're just doing introductions for the moment. So.
Okay. Sorry. Hello, I'm Jimmy from 99 Cloud. It's a Chinese company that runs open source cloud and offer open source cloud training.
And also a fellow Jimmy. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jimmy. Hi, everybody. I'm Ernő Erdei from Budapest, Hungary, Europe. I'm the CEO of Componentsoft, which is an IT training and consulting company specializing nowadays mainly on open source cloud and DevOps trainings and some consultations as well. Actually, I also used to be an IT professional in the old days, dealing with Unix systems, enterprise systems. Now, as I'm not an expert anymore, I had to switch over to management. So that's why I'm here. I'm the CEO of Componentsoft.
Thanks for joining us, Erno.
Hi, I'm Florian. I'm with City Network. We are a global public cloud operator that's based on OpenStack. We're based in Sweden, but like I said, we have a pretty global footprint with public cloud. We also do compliant cloud, we do private cloud, and I run the education side of the business, which means that I'm here for getting our own employees up to speed on OpenStack, but also our customers and the broader open source and open infra community.
And I'm Paul Quigley. I work for Mirantis. My responsibility is focused on the training side of the house. I've been doing OpenStack training now for over 10 years. It seems like a long time. I grew up with OpenStack, it seems. But we'll get into later. We do more than OpenStack. My focus is OpenStack. We also provide training on Kubernetes, for example.
And hello, everyone. I'm John Walter, Solutions Architect at Red Hat. I work with the training and certification team to help our customers identify skills gaps, build out training, and deliver training. Been at Red Hat about 6 years. Hopefully everyone knows who Red Hat is. We're the big open source enterprise organization, not just a Linux company anymore. Obviously, a big focus on OpenStack and Kubernetes and OpenShift and Ansible automation. So excited to talk with you all today.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and appreciate you joining us. I also want to take a quick moment to thank Mirantis for their contributions and community partnership with the Foundation on the Certified OpenStack Administrator exam. And I'd love to thank 99 Cloud and Jimmy in particular for promoting and supporting the OpenStack COA in China. We're looking forward to hearing from everybody today about all things training. So let's get started. First up, I'm curious, we've got some differences in training modalities amongst all of you. Some do both, some do classroom only, and some do online only. So I'm curious to hear we'll start with Paul. Do you find one or the other works better for Mirantis? I know you do both.
Well, depending on which products you're talking about or which technologies, Our Kubernetes classes are online as well as virtual or face-to-face. The OpenStack classes are traditional face-to-face, virtual online through Zoom now, but we're looking at putting those online self-paced as well. But my personal experience in running a class, and I'd be interested in hearing the rest of the panel's comments on this as well, but mine is, I prefer face-to-face. I like to look at people and see, I can look at somebody, and I've taught classes where I've looked at students and they're not getting it. So you can see that on a Zoom session. No, you don't see that. So I prefer that. And for me, the interaction is what drives me. I usually try to solicit input and then steer the class content from there. So that's my philosophy and my preference, but understand, especially the world conditions lately, we've got to do things online, so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know that ComponentSoft, as an example, did solely in-person trainings and then has had to shift as a result of COVID. Arno, I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit and what your experience has been in that.
Yes, sure. So you are right that we have two different periods regarding the training modality. So before the pandemic, we only have classroom trainings, typically on-site trainings at large customers. So our instructors had to travel a lot throughout Europe and sometimes also to the USA, Canada, Latin America. They usually enjoyed it at the beginning, but later it could have been tiresome. But all of these have changed from one day to the other when we had to transfer to online trainings. There is also an interesting story about it, but I think it's better later at another topic. So what is important, I totally agree with Paul that classroom trainings are much more enjoyable and probably also more effective for the participants as well as for the instructors. On the other hand, we have now this pandemic situation. And even after, I think that things won't be the same as before. So online trainings have several advantages as well. We have to confess it. So for managers, especially if those managers also deal with financials, the advantages are obvious. So they don't have to pay for the traveling and accommodation of the instructor or the students. But what is even more interesting and what we see now is that it's much, much easier to organize rare trainings with participants from not only different cities, but different countries or even from continents. So it happens time to time with our global customers having offices both in Europe and in Americas, that we run trainings, half days one, on European afternoon hours, which are American morning hours. So easily people from Europe as well as the Americas can participate. Much easier, much more flexible. So it's a difficult situation. I think online training will remain with us in a great extent, and classroom will come back somewhat.
Got it. So Florian, I'll let you take it. City Network is online only, and is it self-paced as well?
Yes, it's completely self-paced, and it's been that way for, well, a long time. So well before the plague. So I completely agree with Paul and also with Edna in that for an instructor, it's an absolute luxury to sort of directly interact with people that are in the same room. Problem with that is that approach doesn't really scale very well, and it doesn't scale well in two ways. Number one, you're limited to a specific size of the class, right? So anything under 10 perhaps is absolutely ideal. Anything under 20 is doable, if that. But beyond that, like not a chance. And also, it doesn't scale particularly well in terms of being able to offer content or courses at the rate or at the frequency that it's usually desired, right? As an example, as a cloud company, one standard issue for us is we want to get people trained up on our technology as quickly as we possibly can when they join us. So the best way of doing that is to say, hey, look, here's some courses that you can run entirely on your own time, and you could just go through them. They're fully interactive. They've got checks on your progress where we're actually looking at an OpenStack cloud, for example, that they're deploying and see if it's properly configured and it's working, etc. And it's just a lot easier onboarding process. The same thing, of course, goes for general skill building. So you've got someone, either a colleague or a customer or whoever, who wants to get into a new technology that they previously haven't been exposed to, and they contact you, and you can say, well, yeah, sure, like we have a class for that. And then they say, well, when can I start? And we say, how does right now sound? And that's a relatively compelling proposition, not having to wait for a class becoming available, or if you want someone on site, an instructor becoming available, etc. But just being able to say, hey, there's this new technology that you want to learn. Well, you can start now, as in this minute, if you want to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely compelling, especially for people that are trying to learn on the go or learn between working a job or going to school, I would guess.
Yes, and not only that, but also being able to learn, besides having their standard responsibilities on the job. Just being able to say, hey, look, you can spend an hour on this every day if you want to, rather than, having to cram for like 2 or 3 days in a specific location, which is frequently the situation that you have in a, legacy mode, instructor-driven face-to-face training. Not to mention all the other things that, come with travel, apart from the fact that travel right now is kind of an illusion. But, even if we're not in a global pandemic, having to deal with travel always means you're away from family or whatever. And just not having that and being able to learn at your own pace is just nice.
Awesome. What's 99 Cloud doing?
Hey, Jimmy. We have both classroom and live online. I think no matter classroom or live, our cloud experts will host full range of courses, help students learning and practice. So it is just students' choice. If you like face-to-face and in the same classroom during training, you can choose classroom. And live online will be much more convenient. And I think it is open source cloud training. So it's not strange we get all the things you want through network access. So I think live online is perfect either.
Awesome. And John, I'll go to you with Red Hat. I know you're doing both as well. Is there ever a situation where somebody takes part of a course online or part of a course and part of the course live?
Yeah, so we were, we were really fortunate, especially pre-COVID, that we were already doing deliveries, kind of that hybrid model that you're talking about. We offered self-paced virtually. We offered self-paced with video recordings. Obviously, we had in-person instructor training, but we also had virtual instructor-led training too. So we've noticed a lot of trends with our customers, especially within the last year and a half, where for instructor-led training, that offers us a lot of opportunities to provide more tailored or more bespoke kind of customized training, and I think that's always going to be an option for us. There are a lot more customers who are having a harder time justifying taking 4 or 5 days out of, their team out of production for 4 or 5 days and going through an instructor-led training. And so that's where we can do exactly what you're talking about, where we can provide essentially maybe 2 days of instructor-led training followed by the remainder of that course delivered in a self-paced fashion, and providing them access to a course for maybe 90 days, maybe a year access. We have a few kind of different ways of doing that, but that allows us to kind of provide that off-the-shelf training that a lot of times that's for the foundation. If we want to start somebody down the path towards containerization, there's things they need to know around Kubernetes. For the most part, those foundations are going to be the same regardless, right? So we can offer them, a self-paced course for maybe 2 or 3 days, and then work with them to kind of define a more customized training for something that'll be much more close to what they'll actually be operating in production. So we have a lot of customers who are going that route now, where we heavily scope ahead of time. We understand, what is it that we have off the shelf that will work right away? What do we need to potentially develop or tailor to meet the rest of that need? And then a lot of the times that's how we're delivering it, partially self-paced and then partially instructor-led, obviously virtual right now. I see really the trend going away from on-site training, at least to an extent. I don't know that we're ever, I think to Florian's point, ever going to get back to, fully sending off instructors all the time. I think that there are a lot of benefits to having virtual instructor-led training where, now instead of just this one site, we can, grab a couple of the people that work in this other continent and have them attend this course as well. So I think there's always going to be a benefit to that. The one thing that we haven't done, and this is something that I think we're going to start to look at over the next 6 months to a year, is how can we do hybrid deliveries where part of that delivery is taking place in person with some subset of that team and the remainder are attending virtually. I think that we've done that somewhat successfully in the past, but have seen somewhat of a lesser experience for those who are not experiencing in person. So I think that there are still a lot of different ways that we can figure out this new normal that we have is no longer so new, but I think there are a lot of different ways that we can start to be inventive and creative as to how we're actually delivering and consuming the training. My preference for years has always been the instructor-led, and still until I got access to a self-paced subscription model with a bunch of different vendors, and I'm like, oh man, I can just do this whenever I have free time. This is great. So I think that we're seeing as an industry and across the board a lot of different preferences. And so I think that having those options is always really important.
Yeah, we're definitely in a new world here. And it's interesting to see how everybody's kind of adjusting. Like, John, let's say I have a CS degree. What's the advantage of me going to take a training at Red Hat or at any other organization?
So really good question. We talk about training with our customers a lot as kind of this, you really have 3 options. You can rent expertise, and that's usually going the consulting route. You can build expertise, which is typically, I've got my team, they don't have this skill set, I'm going to go buy training and I'm going to train them, or you can buy expertise. And I think that's really where, when I talk to students, we have a big program called Red Hat Academy, where we actually provide some of our curriculum to higher education institutions for free. And the whole point is to try to build that skill set for those that are going to be emerging into the job market. And, we know that there is an extrinsic and an intrinsic value to being trained on a certain platform, especially these new emerging technologies. We talk about Kubernetes and containerization, OpenShift specifically with Red Hat. There is a huge skills gap in the market for that. So I think that those coming straight out of university that are coming in certified with these new emerging technologies are going to set themselves way apart from those that maybe have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years that really have, maybe a huge focus on virtualization and none on containerization. We need those people coming into the industry to really hit the ground running with a lot of these new technologies. And so, a lot of what the customers I'm working with on a day-to-day basis, they're looking at, people coming straight out of college that do have experience, whether it's certification or not, but those that have experience working with things like Kubernetes with containers, it really sets them apart, I think, from the undertaking of having to upskill their entire organization. Obviously, they're not going to lay off their entire workforce, but they can bring in some people that are subject matter experts. They can always go to these kind of training programs that Red Hat and Mirantis, these other vendors offer to upskill their existing teams. But it's always great to go out and find somebody that can serve as that subject matter expert internally. Mentorship is a big part of kind of our leave behind with Red Hat training. We always want to make sure that we're equipping people with the skill set they need, but also that we're kind of building a center of excellence so that those that couldn't attend training necessarily can always have those people to lean on. And if somebody coming out of college can already have that skill set right away, that's going to set them apart even more.
Yeah, I think in college, I remember my friends in the CS program are mostly learning COBOL. So
I'll also say I have a film degree. So if I'd have gotten, certified on Kubernetes, 15 years ago when I was in college, I'd be, probably 13 years further ahead in my career than I was, instead of trying to get in the movies for the first 5 years. So I could definitely +1 on going towards certification, going towards degrees. That would be relevant to this field.
Awesome. So Paul, I'll go to you. Let's say I'm a do-it-yourselfer. Like I've taken online courses, I've bootstrapped it. What does a certification give me? I'm already contributing upstream on my own. I've been working on a couple of projects, but what does a certification give me, and how does it give me a leg up in open source versus just doing it myself?
Well, I think if you look at it, the certification, whether it's Kubernetes or OpenStack or whatever the certification is, you're proving you've got a certain skill set. That's the intent behind the certifications, the standard explanation there. From a do-it-yourselfer type perspective, taking the training and getting certified, you're showing a commitment to the technology and to your company. So to me, that's really where that goes. Your level of commitment. Related to what the previous question with CS grads. Yeah, I hear you, Jimmy COBOL. But I've taught, and the reason I'm bringing that up is I've run several classes where I've had some, I'll call them new hires, kids out of college, and they just eat it all up. Whether they've had, I've talked, and I actually ran one class where I sat down with the kids and I was like, wait a minute, tell me what are you learning nowadays? And some of them have had some Kubernetes in their curriculum, some haven't. Some come in with an understanding of cloud, some don't. But it's amazing. That's the audience that I find that's really eating up the certifications. They want the certifications. They want to get certified, and it's interesting to have that type of perspective. They're eager. They see the value in that, and so I just wanted to kind of divert back to the previous question and expand a little bit. Personal experience in dealing with some recent grads, and to me that was like I sat down with them, and I was amazing just to get their input. What are you learning? Really, you're learning that? Wow! Like you said, Jimmy COBOL, Fortran.
Well, things move fast these days too, right? Kubernetes didn't exist back when I was in college.
Yeah, the internet probably didn't exist either.
It was there. It was in the background, but I'm old, if that's what you're implying.
Hey.
So I'm going to go to Florian. This is, I kind of touched on do-it-yourselfers and what have you, but like open source training is different because you're not only teaching the technology, but you also have to teach people how to work in a community and how to work collaboratively. What do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually something that several people on my team are working on, and City Network in general. So one of the things that we've sort of engaged in a great deal is the various open source bits at Grace Hopper, for example. We got involved in that with people. We got involved in that with technology and so on. So that's something that we engage in. Right now on my team, I've got 2 people who are excellent, who are former Outreachy interns with OpenStack. So that's another program that we're very much sort of interested in and involved in. And also, I think one of the things that are nice about sort of the approach that we've taken with our platform is we can very easily make the stuff that we talk about available on sort of an ad hoc basis when it comes to, something like a conference or a community gathering, or things like that. And it actually helps that we deploy our courses with another OpenInfra product. All of our course deployment is with Zool. So that's another thing that's sort of fun about it. But we can also, so that's why we can also use the technology for providing actual interactive content that people can play with in the middle of conferences. We've done that, for example, just a few weeks ago at DjangoCon Europe. And that also gives us the ability to sort of engage with people who maybe at this time may even only be sort of at the fringes of the communities that we're engaged in, but they're also engaged in other open source communities. And in that sense, I think it's a great conduit, and it helps sort of keep the open source communities really plural moving.
Awesome. Thanks. That's it's always interesting. I think watching people come from regular software development into the open source world. I know it was a big change for me back when I did web development to move into it and sort of get used to being collaborative and working in a community upstream.
And perhaps another thing that I can add here is our platform itself happens to be fully open source, and we got pretty engaged in the OpenEdX community that way, because that's what runs our platform. It's just yet another open source community that we're touching there and that we're a part of.
That's awesome. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Erno, you mentioned, and we've all kind of touched on how COVID has impacted our trainings and impacted the way we're kind of just changing day to day. Specifically, how has that affected ComponentSoft?
Yes, we have an interesting story at the very beginning of the pandemic. It happened at the end of February. And that was the time we had to turn our training from classroom to online overnight. And it was in Croatia, Zagreb, and at a large global telco vendor, which has a lot of developers there. And we ran a Kubernetes training. And the first Croatian COVID-infected person happened to be an employee of that company who formerly visited a Milan football match in Milan, Italy. So that was the place he got the infection. And on the same day, on the very day when this became clear, the offices, the whole company was locked down. And from the next day, it was only open for disinfection, for scaphandar wearing people. So our students, as well as our instructors, had to move online. And it really happened during the night. And it was mainly successful. So we already had some experiences with online trainings, live online trainings. It helped us a lot. We had two problems at the very beginning. The first one was the network speed at the hotel of our instructor, as well as at the students' flats. And also our instructor had a small laptop, not suitable for video conferencing. But what was also an advantage of the online training was that we could easily substitute the on-site instructor with a remote one for a half day. So he could simply continue the training, and in the meantime, the problems could be solved at the background. So that was our first experience, and from that time on, all of our trainings run online. Otherwise, I wanted to also comment to the COBOL story, which was which is an interesting in a sense. I mean, you asked what is the sense, the meaning, the value of professional certifications besides a college degree. But you can also formulate the question on the other way around. So what is the meaning, the value of a college degree today when you already have several certifications? And what I can see, both has advantages. So having specific certifications, be they in Kubernetes, in OpenStack, in any current technologies, have obvious advantages. On the other hand, a university or college degree teaches students to see the big picture, to be able to study a technical topic and understand it deeply. So we see a difference between students or employees having college degrees and not having them.
That's yeah, absolutely. And I don't mean to knock anyone that has a CS degree, because obviously there's plenty of advantages for that, and lots of different ways that you can kind of get into engineering and become a developer. But you know, on top of COVID challenges, there are other challenges with with open source communities and technology in general. And I would say a key one is non-native English speakers, right? Most courses, obviously programming languages are almost entirely in English, and commands in command line is largely in English. So I'll ask Jimmy from 99 Cloud, what's your experience with that? I know you mentioned, even as we were talking during the break, that we're lacking a COA webpage on our site in Chinese and instructions in Chinese. So I'd love to hear more about that from your perspective.
Thanks, Jimmy. As you see, the biggest difference is training in English or in Chinese. In China, first of all, we need a Chinese training for students, as we seldom use English in our daily work or daily life, except that China loves certification such as COA, as it is run by official organization and China is being promoting open sources. So what we need to do is just try to let more engineers know about open sources, certification and training. WeChat, TikTok, and other major social media works. So what we need to do is to promote that in Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a critical piece, and I think just by and large, documentation and general open source courses definitely could use more translation and get those communities that are already very excited about being involved, get them more involved. So I think now we're going to go through and everybody's got a presentation to do. Jimmy, since you're with 99 Cloud, we'll go ahead and get started with you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Hi, everyone. I'm another Jimmy from 99 Cloud. As you see, 99 Clouds offer both online classes and on-site course. Our cloud experts will teach you all the knowledge and help you solve the problems during practice until you complete all the labs by yourself. In each class, we always have less than 20 students, and we give all of you well-designed ebook and lab environment which matches your course to let you have a better learning experience and achieve a good result in the future exam. Can we go to the next page? Thank you. In this year, we are proud that we offer open source training to quite a lot of companies and individuals to help them improve their cloud skills and achieve their goals on cloud computing, which you can see on the right. Yeah. The slides showed part of our training customers, and we also have companies from finance, banks, and energy industry. They all play an important role in our society and daily life. In China, open source clouds becomes widely used in more and more areas, and our country is still been promoting open sources cloud and edge cloud since last year. So if you ask me, what is the best time to join open sources and cloud computing? I will answer you right now. That's all my introduction. If you like it, you can connect me. My connection is on the first page. Yeah, and you can connect me with my email or just scan my WeChat. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Erno, take it away.
Yes, please. Now, can I get my slides? Because without the slides, I'm a little nervous or in trouble. Okay, it's here. So we are ComponentSoft, an open cloud training and consultation company with some history. And we offer trainings in these topics and related topics, nowadays only live online format. Traditionally in Europe, our main customers, traditional customers are global telco vendors and operators with European roots, but global presence. And nowadays, we also run quite a few online trainings in the Americas. Otherwise, we are an OpenStack training partner and CNCF Kubernetes training partner. So next slide, please. This is my second slide. It contains all of our trainings about OpenStack and some related technologies. So typically, if you want to learn OpenStack from the beginning, our most popular flagship OpenStack training is OST 104, OpenStack Admin, and COA Exam Prep. COA Exam Prep means that its topics are strongly aligned to the requirements of the exam. So you will hear about all of the COA topics there, and you can also practice them. We also have an advanced OpenStack admin and deployment trainings, and trainings about related technologies like Ceph with OpenStack, Ansible. It's very important and useful at OpenStack, but also at Kubernetes systems. And as you know, okay, we went over. So the other big tribe of our trainings are about cloud native technologies. So Kubernetes, Docker, Prometheus, Istio, Rook, and Ceph. If you are an absolute beginner in this topic, you start with the KBS 105, which teaches you Docker, then Kubernetes and Helm as well. And it's also an exam prep training with the topics needed for the Certified Kubernetes Administrator. exam, and several other advanced Kubernetes trainings and related cloud native topics, trainings about those topics as well. And we have a special promo for the audience of this OpenInfra Live. It means that if you register in September with any components of trainings, those are live online ones, with the given promo code COMSOFT09, you get 20% discount as an organization and 60% as a private person. You see here other links to our website and email address as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Arno. So next up is City Network and Florian, but we had a question come in from the audience, and maybe you can speak to it as part of your slide deck. One of the main problems in adopting OpenStack cloud deployments is the lack of operational team knowledge and a shortage of skilled tech members in the market. How are you trying to help with that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. Thanks, Abdel Nasser. And I completely agree. What you want is actual operational knowledge, with a working OpenStack cluster or whatever technology that we're talking about. Doesn't matter. OpenStack, Ceph, anything. And our approach to that is, you should totally work on one of those. Ideally on one that you can actually break with impunity, just an OpenStack cluster that you stand up. And, if you want to like completely shred it and look at, what a completely shredded OpenStack cluster or Ceph cluster or whatever looks like, and then troubleshoot that and so on, that's exactly the kind of knowledge that you want to build and that you want to look into. So if we can cut to the screen share here, and please. What I'm about to show is simply a demo. It's just a direct screencast of one of our courses. So this happens to be the OpenStack Deployment and Operations course, which is one of our interactive courses where you're actually building your own OpenStack cluster. So in this case, you deploy it to OpenStack Ansible, and what you end up with is an actual real working OpenStack cluster, like one where you have a working Glance and where you have a working Nova and Neutron and whatnot. That is just there for you to work with. It's completely interactive. It's completely self-paced. So you've got your theoretical background about a variety, basically like pretty much everything that you need to know about OpenStack. And in the same process, you're actually building your own OpenStack cluster, and then you end up with something like this, right? You actually have like a working horizon and a working environment. And that's just one course that we've got, but we basically always follow the same principles. So whether it is you're learning OpenStack or you're learning Ceph or you're learning specific topics about OpenStack. So for example, we've got one that's specific to OpenStack Heat for orchestration. It always works along this format. So you've got a bunch of sort of theoretical information, but also you've got all these interactive labs in each and every one of those. And they're not just interactive labs, but they're interactive labs with actual interactive progress checks. So you can actually check your individual progress. Are you building out your cluster the way the instructor intended for you? But then again, you can do anything that you want on this as long as it's legal, please. And just to also, put in a quick plug, if you want to go to shop.cnetwork.eu, this is the current catalog that's available and that you can right now, if you're quick, actually get for free. So we've got a discount code for you, which is on your screen right now. There you go. And we're making that available for a total of 100 course seats across all of our courses. First come, first served, up to 2 users per person. So you don't get to grab someone else's. But like I said, go ahead and peruse that if you want to learn OpenStack, if you want to learn Ceph, anything that you find appealing. Just go ahead. It's all yours.
Thanks, Florian. Paul, take it away.
I'll start by saying, Florian, that's a long code. Normally they're like, 4 or 5 characters, easy to remember. That one I got to copy and paste. Okay. So again, I work for Mirantis. If you need to reach out to me after this session, my email's on this slide. My role is I put the OpenStack classes together. I behind the scenes involved with the COA content, and then I also get to teach the classes. So it's a dual role. I've always done that in my training, which I've been doing for a long time, but I enjoy that type of role. I enjoy meeting with people, even on Zoom. Like I said, I prefer my classes. Well, I start the class, I say, it's a discussion, guys. The bullets on the slide are merely just reference for me. So the Mirantis URL is at the top of this slide. I encourage you, if you're interested, go out there. Look at the details on each class. I'm not going to take you through all of the classes and go class by class. It takes too long. Our focus is primarily vendor neutral or vendor agnostic, which everybody else is here for the most part. So we've got several classes on Docker and Kubernetes. And again, my focus is on OpenStack. So my primary area is those 3 OpenStack classes. We do have some Mirantis specific training on the Mirantis Container Cloud and the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes as well. You'll see all of that on the roadmaps. I'll show you roadmaps to introduce the classes, but modes, primarily same as everybody, face-to-face. Then we convert it over to virtual using Zoom. You have your choice of public classes. Those are hosted by our partners, or private classes where you can request a class and X number of seats. Typically, that's tied in with our subscriptions. And you've got a URL there. There's different levels of subscriptions, different levels of training credits, DCs, for that. You get different, the higher you go in levels, for example, you can request a custom class. Okay. Any questions at all on training and from Mirantis, you can also email the training@mirantis.com or send me an email. We'll get you an answer. But next slide. From a certification perspective, you'll see on the roadmap, the classes get you lined up and geared up and skilled up for the certifications. I'm going to focus on the COA. That's part of my responsibility. So 2 years ago, Mirantis partnered with the Open Infrastructure Foundation to revive that COA, and it's been doing pretty good since then. We still get a lot of interest in it. It's still the only vendor neutral exam that you have. And it's been around for a while. So when we took over, we modified some of the content, some of the tasks. The exam is based on skills. So you get a system. You have to complete those tasks. At the end, we've got scripts that run that grade. And if you get a passing score, you get a certificate. If not, you don't. But it sets the expectation on your skills, okay? And more importantly, since it's vendor neutral, it proves you can operate and administer any OpenStack distribution, whether it's the Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes, or John will be coming on in a minute, the Red Hat OpenStack, or any of the other vendors' OpenStack distributions. So you've got a core set of skills that you can that the exam shows you've got that. The other thing is, if you want more information on the COA, I did hold a info session at the last summit in October, and that's out on YouTube. Okay, so if you get these slides, and I'm not sure, Jimmy, if we're doing that, but if you don't, you can go out to YouTube and do a quick search on the OpenStack COA, and that'll be one of the top links. So it was about 35-minute long, explains what knowledge domains you need, what to expect, etc. So, okay, next slide. I'll go through this quickly. This is straight from that training.mirantis website. There's several paths for what we call the cloud native, Kubernetes operations, development, and the Mirantis cloud native platform. Depending on what you're interested in, at the right, you see the various certifications. So if you want to take the CKS exam, you would start off with I'll call it the bundle. Everything in red boxes is a bundle. So you take the bundle of those 3 classes and then take our new advanced Kubernetes security class, for example. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these in specific. I'll let you go out to the website. There's details on the classes, what knowledge you need, what prereqs, etc. Okay, but 100 level classes are pretty much beginner, 200 intermediate, 300 are advanced. And that applies whether you're talking Kubernetes or OpenStack. Next slide. So now the OpenStack path, you've got a set of classes for Mirantis OpenStack on Kubernetes. Most are prereq to get you to the point to take the MOS 210 class. And then after that, you've got OpenStack. Mirantis OpenStack for Kubernetes is a fully deployed OpenStack using Helm. Okay, so at that point, you're ready to start learning about OpenStack. And the next class would be the admin and operations class. But the bottom track is basically the classes that I'm personally responsible for, 100, 220, and 320. And typically, after that 220 class, you can take the COA. I mentioned earlier, I've had recent college grads take the classes. I wasn't able to double back with them and find out if they did take the COA, how it worked for them. But you do, the premise behind the COA is you should have 6 months of day-to-day experience. So the class maps up to the tasks in the COA. If you pass the class, you can pass the COA, but it's going to depend on your skill background as well. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Paul. John, we'll finish up with you. I hope you have a short promo code, or Paul's going to come at you.
I have no promo codes, unfortunately. I wish I'd come prepared for some free training, but yeah, I wanted to give kind of a quick overview of what our training certification program offers. Obviously, we have a pretty a continually sprawling product portfolio at this point. I feel like usually like quarterly, I log in and we've acquired some new piece of technology that will add to our portfolio as well. Obviously we've for the longest time really just been the Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the Linux company, and over the last, I would say, 10, 15 years, expanded into middleware. Obviously, OpenStack was a big part of that, and now more on the containerization platform, a big focus on automation and management. So you see here kind of a big overview of the different products that we have. We have training that maps to each of these products. We have about 65 courses that are anywhere between maybe 2 and as long as 5, full days of content that are available to be consumed in multiple ways. We have certifications that are tied to each of these different products as well. And they're constantly being updated. Anytime we introduce any kind of new features, we try to stay as up to date with different versions as possible. So if you take a look at our OpenStack training, for instance, a lot of that is going to be available on Red Hat OpenStack 16.1. Same for things like on the Ceph side, we have Ceph 4, and soon we'll have some Ceph 5 training available to you as well. And keep in mind, all these versions are Red Hat specific versioning as well. Next slide, please. Now, I touched on this in the intro side, but we do have a bunch of different ways to consume our training. Obviously, classroom training is somewhat circumstantial at this point. We have actually returned to a few in-person deliveries, at least here in the US. Obviously, that's going to be dependent on the city, the state, the different regulations that are in place. But I mentioned before, we've been doing virtual training, virtual deliveries for years. So we are able to still provide that live instructor-led delivery for either a private delivery, right, just you and your organization, or we do have a public scheduled classroom that's available as well. All of our courses are also available to be consumed self-paced. We provide basically 90-day access to each individual course, as well as part of our Red Hat Learning subscription. It's a 1-year subscription that gives you access to all of our courses. And just within the last 6 months, we actually launched a new tier of our learning subscription that includes instructor-led training as a part of that. So that's part of that kind of hybrid delivery that we're really trying to work towards, giving our customers the option to take as much of a course with an instructor as they would like, or be able to always fall back onto having that self-paced option as well, and kind of dipping back and forth at their leisure. Next slide, please. And then I also wanted to mention, as far as certifications go, we have been really at the top of the game, I think, as far as certifications go, for quite a long time. I would say the big gap that we had in our certification is you couldn't take it at home. And COVID really kind of forced us into accelerating our plans. We always planned to build out some kind of remote way for our customers to certify, and COVID really kind of forced our hand, so to speak, to build out a solution. So we actually do provide the ability to test at home on your own hardware. You actually just boot from a live USB that's running a Fedora image. So no need to install anything on your physical systems, anything like that. All you need is a front-facing camera. You do need an external webcam as well for the proctor. It is still a proctored exam. And much like what Paul described with the Mirantis certifications, these are completely practical exams. You're going to be dropped into typically a Linux environment. Depending on what product you're looking to certify against, there'll be maybe a fully deployed OpenShift or OpenStack cluster on top of that. And you're going to be given, anywhere between 10 and maybe 20, 25 different things that you need to configure or troubleshoot, tasks to perform. And then we have our proctors go through and actually grade that. You need a 70% to pass. I'll let you know, I'm a Red Hat certified architect, so I've got a lot of these certifications. They are tough, but they definitely demonstrate that you can perform these tasks. I didn't do the smart thing and put my contact information in here. If anyone would like to reach out, if you have questions, training@redhat.com. It's a great place to get in touch with our training team. You can reach out to me specifically, jwalter@redhat.com. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. But again, thank you all for the time today.
Thanks, John. And just so you know, you can drop your contact info in the chat on YouTube. That way, folks watching later on will have it.
There we go.
If you dare, put your email address there. Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been a really great discussion. I wish we had a little bit more time today, but I appreciate everyone coming out. And a reminder that you can find these courses and more on the OpenStack Marketplace under the training section. And everyone participating today is a supporting member of the Open Infrastructure Foundation, and we're so thankful for their contribution to our community. If you're interested in an opportunity to participate in OpenInfra Live, or to be represented on the marketplace, or just generally support our goals in the open infrastructure community, set up some time and let's talk. And thank you to our member organizations. And I want to thank all of the awesome speakers today. Thank you again for joining us, and thanks to the audience for some great questions. Next week, we've got an episode lined up that we're super excited about. Join us for round 2 of open source job openings and how to land them. Our last episode on this topic was extremely popular, and it's a great opportunity to ask questions to teams with current open source job openings. And don't forget to visit openstack.org/jobs if you're looking for a job, or you want to post a job, or you just want to see what's going on out there. Also, remember, if you have an idea for a future episode, We want to hear from you. Submit your ideas at ideas.openinfra.live, and perhaps we'll see you on a future show. Mark your calendars, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hope you're all able to join us next Thursday at 1400 UTC. And thanks again to today's guests, and we will see you on the next OpenInfra Live.